Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is the webinar from March 1st on the ARES report forms. We had conducted this webinar as a live webinar, although we had some audio issues. So we decided to re-record the webinar, and we'll also incorporate some of the questions that we received along the way as we present this. So we'll get right into it. Here's the agenda of what to expect in this session. We'll go over some housekeeping issues. Most of these applied to the live webinar from the other night, so we'll get over those pretty quickly. We're going to look at three of the most important ARES report forms that are out there: the FSD 157, the Public Service Activity Report. Steve Ewald, WV1X, will present on that. FSD 212, the EC-DEC Monthly Report. Ken Bailey, K1FUG, will brief you on that. And the FSD 96, the SEC Monthly Report, and I'll cover that. We'll also go over a few tips and tricks for reporting and a brief discussion on where we're looking at ARES reporting going. We won't have the Q&A session because we'll try to incorporate some of the questions we received from the live webinar into this recorded session. So what's our purpose for all this? Part of it is we have noticed in looking at report forms as they were submitted, particularly over the last few years, that there is almost a culture of non-reporting. In this map, you'll notice these sections in blue, and these are sections we didn't hear from during 2015, and that's 38 sections in all, which is a rather significant number. We want to report this out. We issued some numbers in the ARES e-letter in January on kind of a state of ARES. One, to address this problem of non-reporting, but also to find out where the problems are at. Take a look at this system, and the system has got some issues. We're aware of that. We wanted to find out where the problems are, see what we can fix easily, and what we need to take a closer look at. We also want to generate a report back. Typically, the ARES report forms, they got submitted to the appropriate person, and then it just kind of stopped there, and nothing was reported back to those submitting the forms. And we want to change that. We want to offer something back to the ARES program participants across the country. So you've got numbers you can go to partner agencies and organizations with, demonstrating what amateur radio does in your respective communities. And that goes into that fourth point. We want to inform our partners. You know, that's the important part about reporting, is these numbers mean something to those outside the amateur radio community. We need to be able to provide them that so they can see in clear terms and clear numbers what it is we do and the value that we provide. So a few housekeeping issues, questions. As I said, we'll try to address some of the questions we received from the live session in this new recorded session. This is the answer to the second question: will it be recorded and available later? That's what we're doing today. If you've got a question that you think of after viewing this video, or if you were part of the live session and we didn't get around to answering your questions, shoot one of us an email. It's just whatever call sign, KI1U, WV1X, K1FUG at ARRL.org. Just shoot us an email and we'll get back to you. And if you got a suggestion, again, contact any one of us. We'll be happy to hear your suggestions. So let's take a look at the tiers of reporting. At the local level, at the most basic level, an event happens and ARES is involved in some way. This is where the FSD 157, that Public Service Activity Report, comes in. To use a term from law enforcement, it's the incident report. It describes what happened and who was involved. Now these reports, these activity reports, could be one, could be many, depends on how busy it was that month. That makes up the EC report, the FSD 212. The EC report is a status report each month on the condition of the ARES program in that EC's jurisdiction. It could also come from a DEC. And Ken will get in later on to that important aspect of the EC and the DEC working together to make sure that reports are done in an efficient manner and there's no duplication of information getting turned in. And then those reports, the FSD 212s, come together to the SEC to make up the FSD 96,
which is the SEC's monthly report. And this is just what it sounds like, the condition of ARES within the section. So move on to the basics here of the give me 1 second. There we go. I was just checking to make sure the slide was advancing. Okay, we're on the same page here. The FSD 96, the SEC monthly report. Now this is an online form found at the website here. If you're an SEC, make sure you bookmark this page. This is where you submit your SEC monthly report. This data is mostly taken from EC and DEC reports that get turned in. It is a monthly report, so needless to say, it is very dependent upon your ECs and DECs submitting their monthly reports. This data is used to compile the annual information on ARES. This is what gives us the overall numbers of how many ARES participants there are in the United States, how many of each type of activity they took part in, and so on. This is what gives us that big snapshot of what's going on. In the absence of an SEC, hopefully you don't have that situation, your SM can also submit the form. It is received at headquarters by Steve, WV1X, and Ken, K1FUG. Steve processes these, so it gets counted in the QST tally, and Ken keeps track of these so we can put it into an annual report. We do look at these, we take a close look at them, and if something doesn't add up, we will contact you about it. And SECs, we encourage you to do the same with your ECs. Take a look at these forms. If something isn't adding up, ask them about it, check it out, see what's going on. So what does this form ask for? Basically 5 basic pieces of information. Basic identifying information, total ARES membership, net information, activity information, and the submitter's information. So let's start with the basic identifying information. It's what it sounds like. Your ARRL section, just fill in the blank. You can use the standard abbreviation. So like South Texas, STX, North Florida, NFL, Iowa, IA, the month and year. You can spell it out, put in the number, but just make sure that that information gets filled out. That way we know where it's coming from and when it got turned in. So now we're going to look at total ARES membership. So the first line here is the total number of ARES members. This is the total number that comes in off the 212s that you receive as an SEC. So add them up, put them in there, and then you've got a space to indicate any change since the previous month. And of course, that change is can only be counted if you're getting regular monthly reports from your ECs. And just remember that, just because nothing happened event-wise, there wasn't a big tornado or earthquake or hurricane or anything like that, it doesn't mean that you don't submit a report, because there's still other things going on. There's training, there's new ARES members coming on, some being removed from the roster. So there is still things happening, even if there's not a big event. So next line, number of DECs and ECs reporting for this month. And please do us a favor, put in the total reporting out of the total you have. So let's say you've got, 74 DECs and ECs and 23 put in that month. Go ahead and record that number as 23 out of 74, 23/74. That also gives us an idea as to whether you've got some bigger reporting issues going on. Maybe you need some help cleaning up your roster of who holds an EC or DEC appointment. And we did get a question about that when we talk about these appointments. An SEC, Section Emergency Coordinator, District Emergency Coordinator, and Local Emergency Coordinator are what we call ARRL Field Organization appointments. These are the field leaders that administer the ARES program at the local and district and section levels. They are appointed by the section manager. In the case of an EC or DEC, this may be done by the section manager after discussion with his section emergency coordinator. So that's what we mean by the field appointments. So now this gives us a snapshot of your total ARES membership. Also in this area,
total ARES nets active. Now here's the way to figure out if an ARES net is active. Is it called an ARES net, and was it on the air? If it's yes, it was active. This could be a training net that's done each week. This could be for a specific event. This could be for a public service event. Hang on a second, back the page up a little bit. This could be for an actual activation. So if it's an ARES net that goes active, count it. Out of those, these you'll find apply not just to the SEC monthly report, but down to the next level, to the EC monthly report. And how many of those nets had an NTS liaison? This is either a station that is, it is a station that is willing to take any traffic that may be generated and pass this into the NTS system through an NTS net. Also, a spot here for listing the call signs of the DECs and the ECs reporting. This is useful information in determining who your active ECs and DECs are, both at your level and here at headquarters. And it gives us a good sense of where the ARES activity is going on. So, ARES net information. The number of ARES nets active. This comes from the EC DEC monthly report. You don't have to guess this. Your EC should be telling you. But don't. That being said, don't forget to count your section ARES net if you have one. Some sections have those. Make sure you get those counted too. Let your EC know to report nets that are that activated for events, as well as the regularly occurring net sessions. Number of nets with NTS liaison, as I said, this information is going to come from the EC DEC monthly report. Each monthly report will effectively show a yes/no as to whether or not a net had a NTS liaison. Just a little caveat on the calls of the DECs and ECs reporting. Don't be lazy about this. Please put the information in. We've seen a lot of these reports come in with this left blank, even though that there were DECs and ECs reporting. Please put this in. This is important information. Just get the call signs right off the reports you received. Activity information. These 8 boxes are where most of the mistakes are made. So we're gonna kind of spell these out step by step here. First, the number of drills, tests, and training sessions this month, and the total of hours. This is going to come from the EC monthly report. You just add these up. Drills, tests, training sessions. It could be drills and tests are pretty basic. Tests could be seen as exercises as well. Training sessions. This could be Skywarn training, EC001 course. Maybe you had an AUXCOM session in your area. Count those as well. Any training that your ARES members did should be counted in this area and record the total hours. Number of public service events this month. These are the parades and the marathons and the bike-a-thons and so on. This could also be things such as Skywarn Recognition Day could count under this as well. Total number of events, total number of hours. And then the third and final area is the number of emergency operations this month and the total hours. Emergency operations, just what it sounds like. If it's an emergency or disaster, it could be a larger scale event. Tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, whatever it may be, 911 outage. Record the number of operations this month and the total hours. All of this is coming from your EC's monthly report, the FSD 212. Now add it up. So you add up the total for these 3 areas. That gives you the total number of ARES operations this month. Do the same for the person hours. Person hours are very, very important, as much so or more so than the total number of events. The events are, of course, are important. That tells us how many activities that ARES is participating in. But these person hours, this is where we calculate a dollar value on what ARES provides. If you've got an EC that's not turning in the hours for these events, get them some help. Find out why. Maybe it was just an oversight. Maybe they just need a simple tool like time cards for their ARES members so they can keep track of how many hours people are participating in activities. So the submitter's information, it's just what it sounds like. Comments, section there for if you think something needs explaining. And if you think something needs explaining, you're probably right. Take the time to spell it out. Did an EC or DEC really stand out this month? Mention it. Did you have a major event? Was there a hurricane, earthquake, tornado that might be something significant? We may want to take a closer look. Sign it with your name and call. I noticed the typo there, and hit submit. So that's the basics on the submitter's information. So now what we are going to do, we're going to take a look at one that's been filled out. So this is a sample one. So we see the section, month, year. We see the total number of ARES members and the change since the previous month. We see the number of DECs and ECs reporting. Now in this case, it wasn't filled out with the slash out of the total. The number of ARES nets that were active, and out of those, how many of those nets had an NTS liaison. So now we see the call signs of those reporting. And then we start to see the breakdown. There were 36 drills, tests, and training sessions, which accounted for 162 person hours. The number of public service events, and the number of person hours, and the number of emergency operations this month. And these numbers are pretty consistent with what we see, or what we expect to see. We do expect there to be more drills, tests, and training. We expect more public service events than emergency operations. Just very simple that true emergencies don't exist as often as all of the other things that ARES can support. So we add them all up, we get 37 events or ARES operations for the month, and a total person hours count of 186 hours. No comments on this one, signed by Hiram, and he hits submit, and it shows up here at headquarters, ready for processing by the field organization team. So that's the very quick rundown of the FSD 96, and we will move right away into the FSD 212. Ken Bailey, K1 FUG, will be instructing on that. So stand by as we change our presenters around. And Ken, the screen is yours, and ready for you.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, everyone. I'm Ken, K1 FUG, and I'm going to introduce to you the FSD 212. One of the first things you will notice is that this form is in Word format. And that's the way it is currently. It's subject to change, but you will find it as not an online form. It may seem a little bit more difficult to work with, but you know, you can find it easy enough with that link that I provided there in blue. That link will take you right to the forms page, and you can find all of our forms currently presented there. And you might want to, you know, copy this link, put it in your favorites, and keep it handy so you can get back to it rather quickly. Now, the data on this form is submitted by the ECs and DECs on a monthly basis to the SEC. And as you will see in the next slide, that it looks somewhat familiar. Now, data is used to compile the annual information on what is happening in ARES. So here is the form that you will see when you open this Word document. Up at the top, jurisdiction. Your local jurisdiction, it could be a city, town, it could be a county, whatever it is that you normally do to recognize yourselves. Don't forget the month and the year, because we are going to track these, and I do take all the data that's on here and put them on a spreadsheet for now so that we can review all the data that comes in. Now, down below here, you'll see total number of ARES members. It looks familiar. It's the same, it's a different form, but it's the same information being asked. So the EC is keeping track of all these events, whether they're, number of drills, tests, and training sessions, emergency operations, and don't forget the total of all of these ARES operations that are ongoing during the month. Place for comments down below, just as you've seen before. Again, if you think we need to know something, put it in the comment section. And don't forget to sign it. Now you can take this form and you can just copy it. You can paste it into an email. You can send it as an attachment, a Word document. Send it via WinLink, FLDG, etc. Any way in which is convenient for you and your SEC to receive it. So have some fun with it, add the information that's current for this month, and get it to the SEC. Now we'd like the SEC to get the information around the first of the month because he's going to be getting quite a few of these. So it's going to take him a little bit of time to get organized and get all the information from all of these 212s so he could put it into his report. So get it to him as early as possible in the month. So the SEC is gathering all this information. These are a collection of all these 212s. And he's going to be getting them from ECs. He's going to be getting them from DECs, if you have DECs. Not all sections do, but say you do. Decide early on who is going to make the report. Is it going to be the EC or is it going to be the DEC, especially if you have the same information to report. The duplication of effort is something we're going to try to avoid. So why are these reports important? Well, as Mike explained earlier, it identifies information concerning what's happening in your section. What the membership is like. Has the membership changed? Has it increased or decreased? Good information to know. Net information. We don't know what nets are currently ongoing in your section, but by putting the information down, we will get a pretty fair idea. And also, if you have more than one net, put that information down. I'm sure you do on a weekly or monthly basis have quite a few nets. You could put the information down in the comment section. You could expand it if you like, or send an additional document along with this, just so we get that information. And of course, the submitter's information, so if we ever have a question, we can get back to you. Here's an FSD filled out. Since it's currently a Word document, you have to put the information in by hand. But as you can see, we're looking to gather information on ARES members. How many since last month, plus or minus. Here's an area, ARES area 4 south of that meets in my area. And it meets a couple times a week. It's a liaison for the Connecticut Traffic Net. Good information to know there. Now we've taken that information, the data on number of drills, tests, and training sessions, and as Mike explained earlier, and I'm using the same figures as an example. We have 36 drills, and we have a total of 162 person hours for those 36 drills, tests, or training sessions. The number of public service events this month, there was 24 person hours. Well, you get the idea. And as you can see, it's simple addition. Just add them all up. So for the total number of various operations this month, we're going to have 37, which is a sum of all the events. And total person hours, 186, which is, again, is the sum of all the hours, man hours, for that section or that area of your section for that month. Here I put down Mystic Fun Run, just a little description of one of the events that took place. I put it in the comments section so you get an idea. And don't forget the signature of the submitter. So, you know, if pretty much what the FSD 212 is all about.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Any more? Are we ready for Steve and the FSD 157? All right, give me a second here, and we are going to change presenters over to Steve Ewald, WV1X, who will go over the FSD 157. And just got a few notes. I'm going to try to tackle a few of the questions we've got before we move over to Steve. From the live session, we had some of these. Somebody asked that their SEC requests their ECs to report on a quarterly basis. Doesn't that make it impossible for the SEC to comply with the FSD 96 monthly submission requirement? Yes, it does. The SEC ideally would not do that, because that means that any event that occurred on a non-reporting month would not get counted, because this form doesn't really account for quarterly reporting. And that's not how we keep track of it here. So no, quarterly reporting is not the best practice. Monthly reporting, it would be the way to go. On both of these, we talked a little bit about number of nets, and somebody asked, are we talking about the number of nets or the number of sessions? And this is the number of net sessions. So for example, let's say your county only has 2 active nets. One's a general interest net, and the other is an ARES net. And during the month, the ARES net activated 4 times for weekly training, and twice, once for a public service event and once for an emergency event. So that's 6 net sessions. We wouldn't count the general interest net that did not activate in support of ARES. So it's total number of net sessions. We had a question from an SEC about reporting, and there's 88 counties and 10 districts. How should an SEC process that much information? In that case, have your local ECs report to your district ECs, and the SEC should be receiving the reports from the DECs. Use simple chain of command methodology here, just to make sure that you're not getting overwhelmed with reports. We'll get one more question, then we'll move on to Steve. Somebody asked mutual aid. If mutual aid is used, how should that be reported on these forms? Well, first off, mutual aid from whom? If it's from another ARES group, for example, let's say the next county over sent you 3 guys in support of an event that you've got, that is an ARES activation from the other county, so their EC is going to make that report on their form. They're the ones that activated their ARES group, and so that activity, mutual aid, which would be an emergency, typically an emergency operation, but it could be a public service event. You know, look at the Boston Marathon, draws hams from all over New England, really, to support. So it could be a public service event, but it's a matter of, you know, whose ARES members are they, where'd they get deployed from, and that's the jurisdiction that should be reporting. And with that, we are going to go over to Steve, and then I'll answer a few more questions after Steve's presentation. So Steve, the slide set is yours. Oh, it helps if I unmute Steve.
Hello.
Hi, Steve.
This is Steve Ewald. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're all set.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Mike, and very good afternoon to everyone that's listening on this program. Let's see here. Does the screen look okay to you?
Go ahead and start the slideshow there at the bottom to get out of the editor view.
Okay. Oh, yes, here we are. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, all set.
Yes, the Public Service Activity Report, FSD 157. If you've been into amateur radio for a while, you know that this form has been around a long time and in many different formats, and it's designed to document amateur radio's participation in emergencies, emergency exercises, that includes tests and drills, public service events such as parades, marathons, bikeathons, walks, and other such events. This form is available online, and it may be filled out by just about anyone that's participating in public service events or in an emergency activation. Of course, ARES emergency coordinators, club members, ARES members, and public information coordinators, or anyone that's designated to handle the report. All of these participants are certainly invited to fill out one of these public service activity report forms. Please note that if you are filling out this report form and you're not an emergency coordinator, please do remember to report this activity onto your EC, because this serves as a convenient way to document your group's activity for the monthly EC or DEC report, who in turn compiles the monthly data and sends it on to the SEC for his or her monthly report. This is exactly what Ken and Mike have been talking about earlier. So in a sense, this public service activity report form is a grassroots reporting system that gets your activity reported and documented through the chain of command. Notice the nature of activity. Point number 1 on the FSD 157 report form. These are the categories as it stands now. However, you'll note that, please note that we have plans to update these categories to make them even more consistent across the entire board. But right now we have communications emergencies, we have alerts, special exercises, which includes the public service type events, and the test or drill. That includes any emergency training, simulated emergency tests, that kind of thing. And the point number 2 and on through number 9, what we're doing here is a brief description under point number 2. Please note this is a title that you want to apply to help the emergency coordinator and anybody else who reads the report understand what the activity is all about. And it helps to categorize the activity and helps, once again, everyone to determine if there are multiple reports on the same event. Points number 3, of course, helps identify the geographical area. Number 4, number of participants. This is important to calculate the overall total volunteer value of their activity. So you just want to get that number noted. Point number 5 and number 6, number 7, number 8. These are all very basic reporting items. Helps document when you start, when you end up, how long it's been going on, the duration of the hours. Please note that this is a duration of how long the event actually takes place. And we'd like to also include the number of repeaters used, because that gives you an idea of how many repeaters in your area are being used, and it also highlights what activity is going on and how what the reach of your public service activity is including repeaters all throughout the metro area, or throughout the area, throughout the state, throughout the section. Do you have linked repeaters? That kind of thing. All that is included and is important. Oh, I'd like to mention point number 8 specifically, the total person hours. This is important because it's used to calculate the total volunteer value. it's not the same as the duration of the event. It's the time, the total time worked by each radio amateur during the event. So it's just a simple addition. Speaking of which, this is a good way to calculate the value of time during this public service event. Point number 10, estimated person cost. Right now we're using $19 per hour. That's what the form says. Please go ahead and use that when you're filling out the form. We realize this particular number may be changing in the future future formats, but for now, $19 per hour is a good one to use. Point number 11, estimated cost of equipment. Well, for now, just give us your best guess on this, because we realize that this too point will be revised for future updates on this activity report form, only because there are many considerations when it comes to counting the cost of equipment used in emergencies. Is it new equipment? Is it old equipment? You know, you gotta consider the depreciation of some equipment and that sort of thing. So it gets a bit confusing in that regard. But so that's the reason we think we're going to be changing this in future formats. But for now, as you calculate, just give us your best guess for point number 11. And then point 12, it's the total estimated cost of service as a addition of 10, 11, and you got your total. Put that in line number 12, please. Thanks. Oh, the public service activity report. We are asking for the nets and or frequencies used. Again, this gives you gives us or gives any reader a snapshot of where the operations took place on the air, what modes were used, what facilities were used. If it's on HF, please include the net frequencies there. If it was on local ARES nets or traffic handling nets that you're handling, just go ahead and include all that information. This is good info. And number 14, the number of messages handled. What we're looking at for this is the number of written or formal messages that were handled during the event. Consider the ARRL, a radiogram form. That's a formal message, or could it be the ICS 213 form? That too is a formal written message. So what we're looking here is the number of formal messages that are handled. Don't worry about the tactical messages. We're looking for the number of formal messages handled here in number 14. Point number 15, we're asking for the agencies and the organizations. For whom did you work with or partner with for this communications event? Was it the National Weather Service, American Red Cross, Salvation Army, maybe the local emergency management agency, maybe the local diabetes organization, any group that you're working or providing service for and partnering with? That's the names that we would like to have you include there on point number 15. Number 16 says call signs of the participants, major participants here. You're certainly welcome to include anyone that signed up and that's participating. Don't have to just you really don't have to narrow out just the major participants, but go ahead and put down anyone that's active in this in the event. The good point about this is a chance to provide kudos, chance to provide some compliments, and it gives a chance to recognize all that participated. Please note, if you need extra room to include your report, go ahead and include that on an extra page or an extra space in when you're filling out the form. There's no real limit to how much you can write in these public service activity reports. And that's a good segue into point number 17, because this is a chance to explain and to expand your story or narrative. If you think your activity or drill or communications emergency or special exercise, if it merits an additional information, please go ahead and write that out. Because the folks that read this report, that could be your section manager, section emergency coordinator, they may want to incorporate that then into their monthly section news reports. If we see it here at headquarters and we see a very good report, we may want to incorporate that into an ARRL web news story. Some of this information could also be a basis for a QST article too, for public service column or in that regard. So this is a chance to expand what you did during the event. A good idea was passed along by Mike. You could include a link to a Facebook account, or maybe a weblog, or maybe your club's website where you've already featured this public service activity into some other type of format. If you've already got that, just go ahead and plug the link right into this this area for under the other comments. You can attach photos too, or indicate if there was newspaper coverage. All this is a great way to document your public service activity report, and it's a great way to let everyone in the chain of command know what your activities has been all about. So thank you. And the last part of the FSC 157 is a way to recognize your name and the name of the amateur radio organization that's providing the service. Please give us your location, city, town, location, state, and your name and call sign, address, your email address, please. And if you have an ARRL appointment, please include that. Information on how to contact you. Telephone numbers is fine, and of course your email is fine as well. Please type in or write in your name and date it as well. This information, contact information, is very important, because this will give us a chance to contact you if we have any questions, since you are the primary source of this information. So, so thank you very much for listening, and let me pass the mic over back to Mike as our today's roundtable discussion leader. Go ahead, Mike. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Steve, and thank you for the presentation on the 157. And just want to add a few comments to what Steve said. Something to keep in mind is that the Public Service Activity Report does not necessarily have to come from an ARES group. It may come from a club. It may come from a group of hams that have organized to assist on a particular project. This is that form that makes sure what we do as amateurs in our communities in support of public service functions get recognized and get counted. It's not intended to account for everything that we do. So this isn't where you record your VE sessions or your license classes, or you worked at the school and did an ARES project. This is primarily in those areas of supplemental communications activities that we do in either the non-emergency setting, public service community events, or in the disaster or emergency setting. So this isn't the catch-all form for just everything hams are out there doing, but this is specifically for supplemental communications activities and preparing for those activities. It's not intended to be a catch-all. So especially when you see things like point 4 was the number of participants, this isn't the number of ARES members that were involved. This is the number of all the amateurs that were out there volunteering in support of the event. So just to kind of give you an idea of the scope of what this is trying to record. So we'll get to a few more questions that we got asked. I had a couple really great questions about severe weather events and these forms, and that's definitely my area of interest. We had a question: if you were activating your group for support for your EOC during severe weather event, would that be a public service event or emergency activation on the report? That would be an emergency activation if it is definitely a severe weather event. That would be an emergency activation, although as we'll see in a little bit, that would fall into a different category with some of the modifications that we're looking at down the road. In a similar vein, we are requested by National Weather Service Pueblo to hold weather daily briefing nets from May through August. Where do they fall? That would be more under the area of a public service event because there is no exact emergency going on. Actually, it would probably be better to record that under drills, test training, because it's also it's not a supplemental communications activity. It's more of a briefing. It's information, so it would definitely fall under drills, tests, and trainings. I had a question about the format for the EC report, whether or not it would be okay to send that on as a PDF format. And just a word about how these forms get transmitted to the next level. So the FSD 157 is an online form, shows up here at headquarters, and we also make sure it gets back to the EC. Which we're looking at a better way of doing that. That Word document for the EC monthly report, check with your SEC, see how they would like you to submit that, because that's going to go to them, typically as an email attachment, but it could be transmitted in any number of ways. See how they want you to submit that, whether it's a Word doc, PDF. They may have Google Forms already set up, so you can use that. But talk to your SEC and see how they would like you to submit that. For SECs, please use the web form that we have online, or if you've got a system in place that can generate something that goes to headquarters, that's fine too, as long as we're getting that information in the format that we're requesting it. Should weekly or regularly occurring nets be counted as drills, tests, and training sessions, even though they are already counted for on the FSD 212 under local net name and total sessions? Drills, tests, and training sessions, that does not include nets because that is total net activations. A training net is going to be a net activation, so count it only in one place, and that is under the net sessions. Let's see what else we got question-wise, and before we get on to the next one. My city has an emergency preparedness day. We set up a demo display but no net. Where does that go? That would actually be a public service event. While it's typically not a, right now that's the best area it falls in. It's not really drills, training, and tests. It's not an emergency event, but it is a public service activity in that it does play a part in teaching the public about what we do in the community and for our communities. Somebody asked if jurisdiction is just district or county. In some areas, yes. In other places, it could be a city or especially in like a large metro area. So that basically gets most of the questions that we got. Just for the interest of time, if we didn't get to your question, shoot one of us a note and we'll try to take care of that. So moving ahead. So a few tips and tricks on reporting. One thing that we would recommend at all levels, make your life easier. Use the ICS Forms 205, the communications plan. And if you need a timesheet, 211P, it's a modification on the 211, which it's not really, once you modify an ICS form, that kind of defeats the purpose of ICS of standardization, but every once in a while there's one useful that comes along. 211P is for recording personnel hours. So, or just make up a simple timesheet to record your person hours. Obviously, those are very helpful. Use online volunteer tracking if you need to. There's an outfit called Track It Forward that For an ARES group, especially at the local level, you could set up a free account through there, and everybody could log their hours through there. Google Docs, cloud storage, things like Dropbox. These are very handy things for storing forms in, storing plans in. If you got a concern about a form being stored in cloud storage, and people messing with it or editing it, and you don't want them to, even in Word, you can save a document as a PDF and store it that way. So that can be useful as well. And as I said earlier, at all levels of reporting, follow up. Make sure that you're looking over the reports that get submitted for accuracy. Make sure everything's filled out. We've all got to kind of hold each other accountable on this information. So make sure that you're doing the follow-up when it needs to. And section-based systems. I know there's a lot of sections that have ARES databases and management systems in place, and that's great. But if your numbers aren't making it to headquarters, we can't account for what you're doing in your ARES group. And I know there's some sections out there that have fantastic platforms in place to manage their ARES within the section, but we're not hearing from them. So when it comes right down to it at the national level, it gets recorded as a 0. And I know I've talked with local ECs that really don't like to hear that all of their hard work is not being accounted for on up the chain. And and a lot of folks say that putting demands on volunteers, you can't do that. You add a level of bureaucracy. This is 3 forms, folks: an incident and 2 monthly reports that are filled out by 2 different folks. If we don't account for what we do as amateurs in the public service realm, the days are numbered on how long we're going to be invited to take place. We have no real numbers to back up our claims that we are of value to our communities during times of disaster or emergency. The only way we're going to get those numbers is through every one of us at all levels, from the local volunteer ARES member all the way up to here at headquarters, making sure that we're all counted for, and we've got the numbers to back up what we know we provide to our communities. So a little bit on the future of ARES reporting, and this may answer some of the concerns and questions that have been brought up during the live session and some of the messages that we got following. So one of the long-term goals we've got is a standard online format for all forms with auto forwarding. So that way you can log in, you fill out your 157 after the event, the EC gets it, because that's who should be getting those 157 forms. The EC can log in and his report is already getting auto-populated based on the activity reports that are coming in, and at the end of the month, fill out the remaining details, hit submit, and it rolls on up the line to the SEC. And same for the SEC on up to headquarters. That's a long-term goal. We're going to change the categories a little bit, and they'll reflect on all 3 forms. The new categories: drills, exercises, and training will stay basically the same, although tests will go over to exercises, because we're seeing a lot more participation in that, and it's also just a lot of this is modernizing terms as well. Community events, what typically has been called a public service event, but the community events are the parades, the marathons. A PR event could fall into that. This is, instead of looking at it as just a supplemental communications activity, this could also be a public education opportunity in that realm of what we do as participants in ARES programs. Disaster and emergency activation, basically what it sounds like. National Weather Service Skywarn support. Now this kind of goes into the question of, we're doing a briefing from the National Weather Service office, or I'm reporting to the EOC for a severe weather event. If weather is involved, we want it to count into this, so we may tweak this to also include you're at the EOC, but you're there for a severe weather event, because we really need to keep a good track on amateur radio support for severe weather events and severe weather response. We're going to take a look at the, and I should say those new categories will be coming soon. I'd expect within the next month or two. New calculations for person hours. We're actually looking at this as a long-term goal because we want to make it an automated system. You don't have to do the math, $19 times X number of hours. It'll be automatic. When you plug in your number of hours, it will give you a grand total. It's going to be on a state-based calculation because a volunteer hour in New York is at a different rate than a volunteer hour in Kansas. So this is going to be based on a standard rate calculation for the state you're reporting from. We're not going to include the equipment in the total, and it's primarily because that number is a kind of a soft number. We don't have an actual figure on what the equipment is worth, and typically what we've seen is that if you got your HT that you bought 5 years ago for $300 and you went out and worked the parade, you're going to claim it's still worth $300, but it may only be worth $100. So it's not a figure that we can accurately account for. So and it's a national level partner had an interesting observation on this particular one. They said, we expect hams to already have this equipment. Why would you count it again? It would be the same as saying you're a Red Cross volunteer heading to work at the shelter, and you took your car to get there, and you count the value of your car as part of your volunteerism. Doesn't quite work that way. They expect us to already have this equipment, not to purchase it just for that event. It would be different if we were purchasing equipment for a specific event. Also, information collected on spectrum and modes being used. We need to see what percentages we're using on HF use, VHF, UHF, the different types of modes. That will also be coming soon. The information on the type of agency that we're serving, whether it's emergency management, law enforcement, fire, National Weather Service, so on. So this way we can start keeping track of which partners are that we're working with across the board. We're also looking at an after-action library. This is so all of those supporting documents we can start compiling little files for an event that can be searchable. So if somebody says, well, what did they do during the Joplin tornado in 2011, they will be able to go to that and see after action reports, photographs, video, whatever they may have. But the big goal in all of this is we see this as a two-way street. The reports come up from the local level, through the EC, through the DEC, through the section, up to headquarters. We want it to flow back as well. So we're looking at building a report out mechanism in this that will paint a national picture of the ARES program. It will also provide on a regular basis. We're still in discussion as to whether it would be a quarterly or an annually issued report on ARES at the state level and at the FEMA region level as well. So we do see this as a report back function. And we want to make sure that the information is flowing both ways. So that way, if you're a local EC or a section EC, you're going in to talk to an agency or organization representative, you've got information in hand that you can take with them that's meaningful at that level. So that's kind of the gist of the webinar. We thank you for participating or watching the video after the fact. And we hope to have more of these coming up. Next month, sometime around the 3rd week of April or so, we will be doing another one on memorandums of understanding and forming formal agreements with local, state, and national partners. So that'll be coming up in April. Later on this year, we will have one on contesting as training. We'll talk about the link between ARES and public service activities in the contest community. There's far more connections there than most realize. And of course, in the summer, probably in August, we will have our annual hurricane season webinar with the folks from WX4NHC, Hurricane WatchNet, and VOIP Hurricane Net, and possibly also participants from the Canadian Hurricane Center that joined us last year, providing some great meteorological input on the hurricane season. I want to say thank you, everybody, for participating. If any of us can be any of assistance, here's our contact information, as well as of course, the League's website address and our Twitter address as well. ARRL_ARES. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it and will be able to participate in our next webinar. 73, everybody, from League Headquarters. This is KI1U with K1FUG and WV1X. Guys, I want to give everybody a 73.
73, thank you.
And thank you for attending.